If you've ever heard you have to learn to love yourself before you can love somebody else, or you have to become independent before you'll be capable of a mature relationship, then you'll want to keep watching this video, because it may be that your relationship is suffering for believing these two common relationship truths. Hey, welcome to RelationShots. If this is your first time hanging out with us, don't forget to download your free guide to intimacy. You will see a link in the description area below. This will walk you through 4 areas of intimacy in your relationship: spiritual, recreational, emotional, and physical, and give you some practical tips on how you can increase connection starting today. All right, here's the deal. What you believe about relationships is important, because what you believe ultimately drives the decisions that you make. And if you've got faulty beliefs, then you may just show up in your relationship with some unhelpful and unhealthy behaviors. That's why we have to be careful with which truths about relationship we actually believe. And so today I want to address 2 common truths that experts throw out about relationship and tell you why they might not be all that true after all. Here's truth number 1. You have to learn to love yourself before you can love someone else. So our culture loves to talk about self-love and how we need to learn to love ourselves. And until we do, we have no business being in a relationship, because if you don't love yourself, there's no way you can love somebody else. And to this, I would say that's sort of true, because sometimes people who don't love themselves, right, in a real unhealthy way, they can lose respect for anybody who's attracted to them because they're thinking, if they like me, there must be something wrong with them, right? People who don't love themselves can compensate for their feelings of low self-esteem by only being interested in the most beautiful, popular, out-of-reach options, right? They can become clingy when people show interest, or highly jealous due to insecurity. They can become easily upset and sensitive to slights in a relationship, which they take as confirmation that they are indeed unlovable. But people that don't love themselves actually often do work out good relationships, because here's the deal. Finding someone who loves you is a good way to learn to love yourself. The reality is that our perception of self is developed by observing how others treat us. So if someone chooses you, if someone loves you, if someone cares for you, if somebody prioritizes you, if somebody considers you, the feedback you got is, you know what? Maybe I am indeed valuable. Maybe I am worthy of love. Maybe I am special. And so you can learn to love yourself as you experience somebody else who's loving you well. So you don't necessarily need to, quote, love yourself first before you can show up in a relationship and love somebody else well. You actually can learn how to love yourself even better by being in a healthy relationship where the other person is loving you well. Obviously, if you're in a relationship with somebody who's narcissistic and toxic, that's not going to go well. Truth number 2 that may be tripping you up, that's not all that true after all, is that you have to become independent before you'll be capable of a mature relationship. And so here's the idea. If you haven't learned to be independent, you'll jump into a relationship trying to fill all your needs, and then you become codependent, which is not good. And since codependency is not healthy, we have decided that any kind of dependency is bad. Dependency actually has become a bad thing now, which basically is just referring to the fact that someone is dependent, and now that's a put down, right? If I depend on somebody else, people are going to look at you side-eyed. Oh, you must be codependent. No, dependency is healthy in relationship. So independence is seen as good and dependence is seen as bad. And I want to challenge that idea by suggesting that dependency is a great path to independence, right? So once you learn how to depend on your spouse for things, and how you communicate your needs and desires in a healthy way, you then become securely dependent on one another for things in a marriage. That's a healthy marriage. We depend on things from one another. And the more you feel you can depend on your spouse, the more emboldened you now feel to do things on your own and develop aspects of independence in your life. So it turns out that forming a couple relationship is a good way to become independent, and dependence and independence are interrelated. The more securely dependent you are in your marriage, the more you can become independent as you learn to deal independently with the world. And as you do that, the more skillfully you'll learn how to express your desires back in the marriage, which increases your dependence in your spouse in a healthy way. So I say all this to say, learning to, quote, love yourself and learning how to be independent as prerequisites for getting into a relationship are not necessarily truths you need to abide by. Relationships actually become the place that we learn a healthy dependence that fuels independence and how to love ourselves through experiencing love from others. So, 2 truths you may have been told about relationship that are not actually true, and the opposite may in fact be more true. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on these 2. Drop a comment below. Have you believed these? And if so, have they negatively impacted your relationship, and how does that show up? Let's have a conversation about that. And until next time, I'll see you right back here on RelationShots.